But she is a Tea Partier, a patriot, and sees nothing wrong with the growing number of gun-toting militias in this
They
country.
show a picture of her, now show a guy with a gun. There we go, association.
If you look around our society, who's actually committing acts of violence right now? Is it the people who are advocating individual gun ownership, or is it our government?
You tell me.
It's our government.
Stuart
I can't
Rhodes
believe
is
she
also
said
anxious
that.
about government powers. He's a former paratrooper, a Yale-educated
Stuart
lawyer,
Rhodes.
and a former congressional staffer. He began a group called Oath Keepers, 8,000 strong now. It's aimed to teach military and police officers, current and retired, to refuse orders they view as violating the Bill of Rights. That's controversial, and many would say
They
a recipe
claim.
for anarchy. But Rhodes believes it is necessary.
All right, you know what? That's it. Look, they aren't claims, they're facts. NLA 09 took place last year. National Level Exercise 09. They got National Level Exercise 10 coming up in a couple days. They had foreign troops brought into our country, and they're working in a number of states, Arizona, Oklahoma. We're talking about troops from Australia, troops from the UK, troops from Mexico, and I'm working on a documentary film at this point in time to further document what's happening right now. And so this is why they're demonizing the Oath Keepers, oathkeepers.org, because they're making a firm declaration as members of the police and the armed services. Some are still enlisted. They are making a declaration that they will not work with the federal government to put Americans in FEMA camps. They won't work with foreign troops. They won't engage in unwarranted surveillance on the American people. Why does that scare these broadcasters like Chris Matthews?
I don't know why it scares them, but I understand why they demonize them. I mean, A, when you start pitting battles against one another, that drives up ratings, obviously, because more and more people are going to be looking at it and going, no, we hate you, no, we hate you. The fact that she was a Tea Partier and the fact that the Tea Party movement has been given such a bad rap because of a couple of bad apples is the same kind of thing that I see in just about any community. Mm-hmm. I mean, where you look at, well, there's a number of communities. I mean, think about any community that you look at in terms of minority or anything like that. And the idea that you're demonizing them because of one or two, it just pits battles against one another. When it comes to her, though, I mean, or any of this, I see it's just an idea of drumming up more controversy. And controversy sells, naturally. But the idea that they're more on the side of pro-government or big government, of course. I mean, they're owned by it, pretty much.
There's the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, and they're known for highlighting hate groups, the KKK, or and if you look at what they've done in previous years. Now they've switched into this new mode where they're trying to blend patriots, constitutionalists in with hate groups. And there's a lot of people that I'm affiliated with that are on the so-called list. And so while they're not naming me or particular individuals, well, they're doing it to some people like Stuart Rhodes and a few other outspoken individuals. They're targeting groups for the sole purpose of getting people to go, hey, I don't want to be associated with this group because I don't want to be on the list. What is your take on the fear-mongering tactics that they're using to scare people into not even getting active at all? How do you talk to people and try to convince them that, you know what, we really shouldn't be afraid of our own government. They ought to be afraid of us, and we've got to do something for our government now before the whole thing implodes.
You know, I wrote a blog recently called "Politics is So Junior High," and one of the first couple of sentences that I addressed was, "Oh, you're hanging out with them? Oh, you're associating with this person? Oh," and the problem with it is that it works. I don't understand. I mean, we're supposed to be adults here and going, so what? I identify with this or identify with that. I mean, and I've spoken about this before. Okay, I'm a Tea Partier, but I'm also gay. Gay people have been given this idea of, okay, you're this pink tutu-wearing, promiscuous, drug-using, sex fiend or something like that. And
Stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. And so now these people are put into a box and they're marginalized. And the same kind of thing when it comes to Muslims in this country. I mean, you think about that, and I mean, just how people, oh, well, they're just all about hate. They're just all. No, they're not. I know several Muslims who have nothing to do with hate. And so the idea here is just to paint them with a broad stroke so that it marginalizes them, puts them into a box, so that if you're not with us, then you're with them. And that was the first time that I really started really dissenting with President Bush II. Not that I voted for him, I didn't really like him at all, but it was just the idea that he comes out and says, you're either on the side of America or you're against us. And I started thinking to myself, whoa, this is a tactic that should never work, but it works. It works so well because you're either here or you're there.
I see other people use that tactic as well, including alternative talk show hosts, for example. They're quite popular doing, you agree with me and my analysis of what's going on, or you're with the government New World Order. And I think that we need to come to this place of respecting one another's views and opinions without having this black or white, all or nothing attitude.
Well, two things. One is when you talked about liberty as being more of a spirituality, and that if you think about it, the first, the inalienable rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, when you look around in the rest of the world, that is absolutely revolutionary. We had nobody had any concept of that. Now we're trying to get away from that because, well, if we can be a part of this new world order so that we're not individuals anymore, we're a part of the we. And so the idea there is that, pushing that agenda and trying to, really brainwash us into that. And I completely forgot the next point that I was going to make, so go ahead and say it.
Well, we are running, a conversation like this obviously needs a full 2 hours.
Sure.
But in the last couple of minutes that we have here, it looks like we've got about 5 or 6. I don't think there's any phone calls on hold. Go ahead and bring up any other points that you want to bring up pertaining to your campaign.
Sure. Well, I look at it and say, there are 3 different points that I'm looking at when it comes to my campaign. I have a number of issues that are on my website, which is marcforsenate.com. That's MARC for Senate.com. But one of the things that we really have to take a look at is that the government consistently is chipping away at our rights. The point that I was actually...
With a battle axe.
Yeah, exactly. But the point that I was going to make is that libertarianism has been really marginalized, pushed to the side, freedom, because the idea that to be socially liberal or do what you want with your own life, so long as you don't harm other people, is typically more on a left side of the spectrum. And then on a fiscal side, where limit the taxes and limit the spending, let us keep our own money, is more on the right. But if they consistently just take those two sides, but one party is actually taking both, well, then you don't have these wars anymore. You can't marginalize. You can't fight over it. And there's so much money in these elections. There's so much money in this system that they want to protect. And that's really what it is that I'm trying to challenge. I'm anti-establishment here. There's something desperately wrong with the way that this country, or with the direction that this country is going. In fact, the world. And we're moving into more of an enslavement, where government is consistently growing, and government represents one thing: force. One thing, force. The higher the level of government, the less freedom that we have. And it works just in that inverse relationship. So the messages behind my campaign: first off, we need to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now, granted, people say, oh, well, you're just saying that because you're gay. No, it literally puts people on a second-class citizenry. And if we allow, when Harry Truman opened up the doors to allowing blacks and whites serving together in the military, that's when we saw civil rights. That's when we saw a lot more opening. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And if people are not able to serve their military without living the life that they want to live, that is wrong, and that's un-American. And so that's part of my campaign. The other part of it is to audit the Federal Reserve. Like I've already explained, it's the fourth branch of government. We don't even know what it's spending our money on, and it controls the money supply.
Crack houses. I mean, I don't know. We don't know. But, I mean, that was a joke. But in reality, is it really a joke? We know there's a lot of money that's being funneled out of our country for God knows what reason.
And then the final thing is industrial hemp. And this is something that I think a lot of your viewers will cling on to. And I'm not talking about pot. Hemp is not pot. It's grown from the same plant, of course. But the idea here is that hemp has been linked with pot because hemp jeopardizes huge industries. Oil, the first biodiesel engines were ran off of hemp seed oil. Cotton, you can make more durable clothing from hemp. And lumber. Pound for pound, hemp is stronger than steel, so you can build a house out of it. And people talk about how, oh, well, you just get high off of it. No. The psychotropic substance or level in hemp is like 1/3 of 1% that it is of pot. So you can't get high off of smoking